All right. So as you can see here by my backdrop, I'm on vacation, but am I relaxed? No, I'm not relaxed. Because, because the Commanders, you see, have hired Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, for their head coaching job. My beloved Commanders. And, I'm here's the positive about Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn can coach, right? Dan Quinn can absolutely coach, right? Was in charge of the Legion of Boom 2 years. They go to the Super Bowl each year. All right. Obviously, Dallas. You want good Dallas stats? I got great Dallas stats. Okay. Dallas this year, number one in takeaway during Dan Quinn's run as defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. Number one in takeaways, number one in defensive touchdowns, second in sack rate, fourth in opponent third down conversion rate, seventh in yards per game. You want good stats? I got great stats for you. The guy can coach. Now, when he was a head coach in Atlanta, they went to a Super Bowl, right? So, there's a positive there as well. And, they were very close to winning. Probably should have won that Super Bowl, obviously, 28-3. So there's all the positives of Dan Quinn. Like, the guy can absolutely coach. The concern here, I think, from a Commander's standpoint, from a point of view, is there's a few things. Number one, it's not a sexy hire, right? It's not fun. We were so excited, obviously Josh Harris, new ownership, Adam Peters, love that hire as general manager. Okay, we're changing stuff here. And it just feels like, for me, that the Commanders, honestly, put all their eggs in the Ben Johnson basket. And then, somehow that went south and they couldn't get their guy. And then they were sort of left around, sitting around like, okay, okay, we played musical chairs and we waited too long and there's one left. The negatives are, right. That last game, you don't want to judge a coach on one last game, but man, oh man, was that a bad last game? The Packers absolutely crushed him. Like, the defense just got exposed. And while Dan Quinn can coach, like, as far as I know, he ain't bringing Micah Parsons with him. And that's not great. You think about him in Atlanta, the success of Atlanta was honestly that offense. Is he bringing Kyle Shanahan with him as offensive coordinator? I don't think so. So that's the tough part, right? A lot of people in my mentions were talking about that this is Ron Rivera 2.0, and I don't think it's Ron Rivera 2.0. I get the comparisons, right? Two guys that were head coaches in the NFC South that were basically 500 coaches. Dan Quinn won only one game over 500 as a head coach of the Falcons. Two guys that were head coaches in the NFC South, 500 coaches that had one great year where they took their team to the Super Bowl, but otherwise, kind of underperformed and not a great division. So I get the comparisons there. They were both defensive-minded head coaches. But I don't think it's the same for a few reasons. Number one is that Quinn's not going to have control of the offense and the entire organization the way that Rivera did. Rivera was in charge of free agency and development and player personnel and drafting. Like, it was all Ron. That's not going to be Quinn. He works for Adam Peters now. And there's more people around Quinn that I think will help them. So that's one positive as well. And I do think that Quinn has a longer track record of success than Rivera did as well. But I get it. Listen, 3 of the 5 years that Dan Quinn was the head coach in Atlanta, the Falcons' defense was 20th or worse in both yards and points allowed. Again, they had Matt Ryan, they had Julio Jones, they had an awesome offense. Give Quinn credit because he let Kyle Shanahan do his thing. And then, of course, after, Sarkisian and Cutter, but whatever. The glory years there were Kyle Shanahan. And so he let him do that. And so that's going to be the biggest key here. Who does Dan Quinn hire as his offensive coordinator? Because fantasy-wise, it doesn't really matter. There's pieces on the defense. Can he improve the defense? Nowhere to go but up. There's obviously familiarity in the division. I hope we beat Dallas. We should beat Dallas this year. But the fact of the matter is that who he hires as the offensive coordinator and who he puts in charge, who the team puts in charge of developing, who I assume is going to be either Drake May or Caleb Williams, whoever's available at 2. That's going to be the key to all of this. And so, It's not a super exciting hire as a Commanders fan, but it also could be worse. I've decided as a Commanders fan to believe in Josh Harris, who has built successful franchises elsewhere, who understands what this franchise means to fans like myself. I'm a big believer in Adam Peters as well. I thought that was a home run hire. So I'm gonna trust the process.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.